What's cracking, everyone? My name is Ryan, and today I want to talk to you guys about the Sennheiser 660S2. Now, this headphone retails in at $599.95. And I would like to send a special thank you to Audio46 who loaned this out to me for my review. I will be sending this back by the time I'm done with this video. Now, before I get into this, I do want to let you guys know that I'm going to be changing up the format of this video based on some recent feedback I received, and that I'm going to be jumping into sound right away. So I would love to know in the comments down below if you like this new type of format, if you want to see me change things up every now and then, if you like the old way, or if you just want to compliment me on this dope shirt that I've got on. Right? Either way, let me know in the comments down below. Now with that, let's take a look at the technical specifications of this headphone. All right, so starting off with sound, and more particular, the low end of this headphone, the 660S2 is of course an update to the 660S. And one thing they said they had changed on the S2, especially if you look at Sennheiser's site, is that they have added more extension to the bass and more, I would say, quantity to the bass as well. Now, I want to be honest, guys, I have not listened to the 660S, so I cannot give you a sonic comparison there with my own ears, but I can attest to the fact that this definitely does have some good extension. In fact, what I would call the bass on this headphone is just pleasant. It is definitely not lacking, but it's also not going to be a bass head's dream in any way either. I think it has a lot of quality to the extension of the bass. It just doesn't quite have a ton of quantity, but I think it's enough that it's going to please a lot of people. And I want to give you a track example just to kind of tell you what I'm talking about here. Now, there is a track, it's called Creeper by Donnie McCaslin. This track I came across, it's kind of a new age jazz track. And what was interesting about this track instantly caught my attention on this headphone because there is a lower ended bass constant going on in this particular track as soon as the track starts. And I heard it right away, and it made me listen to see what was going to happen when other things picked up. Now, when the saxophone kicked in, what was really enjoyable, in my opinion, was the fact that the bass still had that nice, like I said, quality to it down low, and I could still hear that saxophone shine through. So that's an attest to the mid-range of this, the treble to this, all parts, all instruments, everything in this track were just at their right moments and very pleasing. They weren't disjointed. They were in the mix and was just an incredible track to listen to. And I loved listening to that track all the way through, that I had to jot it down and write it down and talk to you guys about it because, like I said, that bass was represented so very well. Now, then kind of on the flip side of that, I have also listened to a new album by Lil Durk. Now, this is hip hop and rap. Now, one thing I would say about hip hop and rap on headphones like this that have this type of bass is it's going to be hit or miss. Artists like Kendrick Lamar and Jay-Z that incorporate a lot of different types of music, and when I say music, I mean like instruments, into their tracks. I think of a lot of jazz and things that they'll throw in to their music. That is going to sound really good, in my opinion, on a headphone like this. But then if you have some other artists, think of like Lil Wayne or someone like that, or Lil Jon, that's going to have just more emphasis on low-end bass and hard-hitting bass at times, that may be a little lacking for some that appreciate that genre of music if they're trying to listen for the beat, which, myself growing up, I listened to a ton of hip-hop and rap, and I love the beat. And I would say the beat may be a little bit lacking at times on this, depending on what you're looking for. Depending on if you're wanting that slam down low, it's not going to quite have that, but it definitely has that quality. And, I don't want to detract from that because that quality is there all throughout. So I would say that would go on for something like even EDM and, of course, electronic music, to where you're not going to get that as much. Now, moving forward into the mid-range of this, I want to give a shout out to another headphone. I actually got it with me here, and that is my ZMF Atrium. Now, the Atrium, along with the Sennheiser 660S2, in my opinion, share a lot of characteristics. And what I mean by that is that the Atrium was the beast of the mids, in my opinion. Now, this one has excellent mid-range as well. And I think the characteristics they share, one is going to be that mid-range, and also the fact that they just have a nice balance throughout the mix of the frequency response, and that it's just a pleasant and pleasing listen when you listen to either of those headphones. Now, the differences between the two, of course, Atrium being so much more expensive, I think it's got more detail, it's got more low-end girth and punch and everything to it, but regardless, it does share those characteristics. And also, another headphone I think that shares the characteristics with this one is the Meze 109 Pro, which is also sitting behind me. Now, the 109 Pro, I think, is going to be a little bit brighter than this headphone is. I shouldn't say I think. It is definitely a little bit brighter than this one is. But I also think the 109 Pro may also have a little bit more of that bass going on at times, so you're getting a little bit different of a flavor there. But they both share excellent mid-range, all three of those. And then there is this guy. This is the 560S, the budget version, if you will, of Sennheiser's excellent sounding headphones. Not budget, but yeah, I mean, I think that one shares a lot in common with this, albeit the fact that I think this one images better. Now, I do want to give one track example to the mid-range, and that is going to be Break by Ali Brooke. That is by Santana. Now, this particular track I reference a lot because whenever I hear good mid-range, I throw that track up because I think that's a representation of excellent mid-range. And what is really cool about this headphone, in my opinion, is that they trade front stage, in my opinion, during this track, whether it's Ali's beautiful vocals that are coming through and then Santana's beautiful guitar that come through. Neither of them overpower each other, which is, I don't believe artists intended, but as far as how I like to hear that track, that's what I think is pleasant, and that's what I think sounded great on this headphone, is the fact that I got that good vocal sense. So think upper mid-range was done very well here, not shouty at all, because I was also able to hear that beautiful guitar of Santana playing all throughout the mix. With that, I think it's time to talk about the treble. And so for treble, I would like to just right away start with a track example, and that is going to be Paper Trails. Now, the track Paper Trails, I think, is a good representation for all parts of the frequency response, but treble especially, because on a headphone that has sibilance, it is going to come across a little bit spicy and hot in the treble, and that you're going to hear a little bit harsher. Now, on this headphone, I felt like that was tamed a bit, but it also maintained the bass, it maintained the mid-range, and it also gave you some space. And imaging is another great one of this track that I love the listen of Paper Trails on this headphone. Listened to it all the way through, wrote it down in my notes that, this is a great example of treble, in my opinion, that's done very well and is not harsh. And I think that's what you're getting out of the 660S2. If you look at the graph, if you're a graph person, you will even see on their site, it looks like it has more treble energy going on. And I think that lends to the airiness and the stage and space, because I think this headphone does have good space up top and it has enough air to give it a natural stage. It's nothing that I think is anything near to like an 800S, but it's going to give you, like I said, good stage. And I think the imaging is done so well on this headphone as well. All right, so now that we've kind of talked about sound, I do want to touch on power, because going back to the technical specs, you're going to notice that this is a 300 ohm dynamic driver headphone. Now with that, you might be thinking, well, this headphone is going to be really hard to power and hard to drive. It actually isn't, and that's what I find fascinating about it. I mean, it's 104 dB with the 300 ohms, so you're actually able to drive this, in my opinion, because I did this, off of various different amps and still get excellent quality sound out of this headphone. I drove this off my ADI2 DAX built-in amp on there, which in my opinion isn't great with high power headphones, and it was a nice, transparent, great sound coming out of that. My Cayenne IHA6, which definitely can drive the hell out of any headphone, played very well with this, especially in the mid-range. My Liquid Platinum, but then even my IFI Go Bar, and I've been listening to the new Cayenne RU7 dongle DAC. All of those played very well with this headphone, drove them, gave them enough power, and was just a fun listen. But if you happen to have tubes, that's where headphones, high impedance, a lot of times can play well, especially dynamics, and I can attest to that. I threw this on the Felix Echo Mark 1 that I have on loan right now, and what that did was, okay, I listened to the track, my gosh, what is the name of this track? It's by Lana Del Rey. It's the title of her entire album. Anyways, I'm putting it up on the screen for you guys, but this particular track by Lana Del Rey was such an interesting listen because her vocals already have a lot of reverb to them. I think that's just part of how it's mixed. Now, when I listened to this on tubes with her, she had some low end at the beginning of this track, and everything just seemed to expand and just fill the room. That's the best way I know how to describe it, because like I said, this has good stage. So I'm not talking about expand like making the stage bigger, but expand and fill the room that you're in, or, you know, fill your head type sound. And I listened to quite a few tracks actually of hers. I like her voice anyway, but I also just really enjoyed the sound of the music because, in my opinion, with those tubes, it really just livened up the mid-range, and, you know, that distortion and things that added to it just made it such an enjoyable listen. Now, it didn't do anything to the bass. I'm going to be honest there. I, even tried throwing hip hop and things on there, and it didn't really add a lot of gusto or things to the low end, and it definitely didn't make anything sparkle up top. If anything, it maybe smoothen things out a little bit, such as, tubes can do. But yeah, I mean, it's a fun listen, and it's a fun thing to do with a headphone like this, is to be able to throw it on tubes. So let's go ahead and talk really quickly about the build and comfort, because I haven't done that yet. I will tell you, build-wise, this headphone is pretty much all plastic. It is metal on the band here, and I think it weighs 280 grams. I'm going to look at my cheat sheet here. It is actually 260 grams, so it doesn't weigh a lot. It's very open. So that is one thing to note is, you see the grill. It's very open and it leaks sound like nobody's business. So do note that about an open back headphone, something to know. And then comfort wise, when I put this on my head, I've got a big head and I had to expand this out quite a bit. But right away when I put it on, I thought, wow, this is clampy. And the first couple of hours I was getting a headache, and I was kind of worried, like, I'm not going to be able to adapt to this headphone and it's going to be a downfall of the review. Well, I'm happy to report that after listening to this for a couple of weeks, pretty steady. The comfort's good. It's got nice padding up top. It reminds me a lot of the 560S, but it's definitely a step up in build quality. And even in the, plush velour pads here that we got, it's comfortable on my head, and it sits easy, and it has good clamp. And I found that things kind of, because it's metal on the band, things kind of just formed around my head over time, and I have nothing to complain about the build or the comfort of this device. Also inside the box, you're going to get a couple of different cables. Mine came with a 4.4 cable, so I could do some of the balanced. I ended up getting an aftermarket cable for XLR, so I could sample that. So just note that for what you're getting inside the box. All right, so to wrap this up, at $599, is this a step up from the 560S? You better believe it is. Is it going to be as good as something like my Atrium? No, it is not. But I am comfortable recommending a headphone like this because I think it has an excellent sound to it. It's got that very natural, just neutral sound. So neutral sometimes can relate a little too close to boring, but in this case, I don't think so, because I think this headphone plays really well with multiple genres, and I like headphones that can do that, so that you're not feeling like you're pigeoned to just listening to a certain thing. Now, jazz and classical by far is going to sound excellent on this, in my opinion, but like I said about even, hip hop and R&B and electronic music, definitely rock with guitars, Chris Cornell, listening to voices and vocalists like that, also are in, strong rock bands and things, listening to metal music such as Avatar, who I love listening to, had some good punchiness of drums and things. So yes, I do enjoy this headphone quite a bit. I'll be sad to send it back, but it will be going back at the end of this video. So I thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you like this video. If so, please smash that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel because, well, as I said, I've got the Cayenne RU7 that I will be working on a review very soon. All right, guys, I thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one.